Hello, today we're going to be talking about algebra, more specifically, graphing inequalities. You might be asking yourself, what is an inequality? And I'll leave that to my friend, Steven, to explain.
So an inequality is a relationship that is not equal and not an equation, hence the name. So instead of using an equal sign, you have to use the following signs: greater than, less than, and greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, or simply not equal at all.
An example of an inequality would be x is greater than 2. That means that x can be 3, 4, 5, whatever. Anything as long as it's greater than 2. So, if you're wondering how you can distinguish which sign means greater than and which sign means less than, you can think of this little trick. So, imagine that the sign is a shark, okay? And the way it's facing means that it's going to eat that number. It's going to eat the 4. Oh no. Anyway, so that means that the shark, he obviously wants to eat the most that he can eat. So he's going to eat the greater number. And it goes the other way as well. If the shark is facing towards that way, that means that the number on the right is greater than the number on the left. And with variables as well, that means that the x is greater than, nice shark. Anyway, that means that the x is greater than 2.
Alright, so moving on to more inequalities. Say you were given the inequality 2x plus 3 is greater than or equal to 7. So you would have to treat this as a normal equation. So you would first subtract 3 from both sides, which leaves you at 2x is greater than or equal to 4. Then you move on to dividing it by 2, and you get 2 is greater than or equal to 2. Meaning that x can be either 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, a billion. Anything you want, as long as it's 2 or greater. Now the reason it's not just greater than 2, it's actually greater than or equal to 2, is because there's a line under the sign. Meaning that it can also be equal to 2. It's kind of like half the equal sign, if you want to think about it that way.
And this also means that in anything that satisfies this inequality will also satisfy this inequality. So if it's 3, that means that since x can be 3, x can also be 3 in this inequality. Now, something that you guys have to be aware of is that dividing or multiplying by a negative number in an inequality, you'd have to flip the sign. For example, in this equation, it wouldn't be x is greater than -1. It'd be x is less than -1. And if you had let's do this again. -1/2 x is greater than 2. And if you multiply both sides by -2, you'd also have to flip the sign.
So as you can see, no matter what, if you multiply or divide, you must always flip the sign, whether it's greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, greater than, or equal to.
As long as the number that you're dividing or multiplying by is negative. Moving on to graphing inequalities. So I made a nice little graph over here, and let's make an equation. I don't know.
Y is greater than -1.
Yeah. So what we'd have to do is we'd have to draw a circle on -1. Greater than or less than, that means if the sign is greater than or less than, that means that it would be an open circle. If the sign is greater than or equal to and less than or equal to, then it would be a closed circle. So, since it is greater than, it would be an open circle. And now you test one of these numbers. For example, 1. Is 1 greater than -1? Yes. So, that means that you draw a line this way, showing that any number that is in this direction of -1 will satisfy the inequality y is greater than -1.
Now we know this because since 1 is on the right-hand side of y is greater than or equal to -1, we draw the line going in the right direction. However, if you plug in -2 for y, you in fact get that -2 is greater than 1, which is not true at all, meaning that the line cannot go in the left direction.
Alright, and that should be it. If we were to graph this as if it was y is greater than or equal to -1, this circle would just be filled. So that should be all for graphing graphing inequalities. Thank you for watching and hope to see you in our next video.